The first thing I noticed when I picked up Ren's phone wasn't the cracked corner of the case or the coffee ring on the screen. It was my name. Except it wasn't my name. It said deleted the maybe. I had to read it twice. She was in the passenger seat with both feet on the dashboard, which she knew I hated, going through her bag looking for her chapstick. The chapstick was always in her bag and she could never find it. This happened every single time we drove anywhere together, and every single time I said nothing because pointing it out would have started a 5-minute argument I had already lost in 6 previous timelines. Can you just check if my sister texted back? She said, still digging. I told her we'd be there by 7 and it's already 6:40 and you drive like someone's grandfather. I drive the speed limit. That's what I said. I picked up her phone off the center console. She'd handed it to me without looking up. The same way she handed me things when her hands were full. Automatic, no thought behind it, like I was just an extension of the car. I pressed the side button. The screen lit up. There was a notification from her sister, and under the contact name where it should have said Cecily was the message preview. But what caught me wasn't the message. It was the contact displayed above mine, because her last open thread was mine, and I was saved as something I didn't recognize. Deleted the maybe. Not my name. Not even a nickname. 3 words that didn't make sense unless they made complete sense. I set the phone face down on my knee. What did she say? Ren asked. She said she's already there. Of course she is. She's always early. It's actually aggressive. Ren finally found the chapstick in the side pocket where it always was. Okay, we need to stop for gas at the next exit or we're going to be that couple on the side of the road and I refuse. We're not a couple. You know what I mean. I did know what she meant. That was the whole problem. Her name was Ren Calloway and I had known her for 4 years. We met at a work conference in Nashville, not the fun kind. The kind where you sit in a beige room for 8 hours and try to look engaged. She was 2 tables over and she leaned across during the afternoon break and said, very directly, if this presenter says circle back one more time I'm going to need you to physically stop me from leaving. I told her I'd be her accomplice. She said that was the correct answer. After that we found each other at every break. We exchanged numbers for no specific reason, except that it felt like it would be a waste not to. She lived 40 minutes from me in the same city, which felt improbable and then immediately felt obvious, like of course she did. That was how it started, which is to say it didn't start as anything in particular. We just kept talking. Texts turned into calls turned into grabbing coffee turned into dinners that ran 3 hours long, because neither of us noticed the restaurant emptying out around us. She became the person I told things to before I'd fully thought them through. She was sharp and she was fast, and she made me feel like I had to keep up, which I liked because I didn't feel that way with many people. 4 years later I had a key to her apartment. She knew my coffee order by heart, large black 1 sugar if it was before noon, straight black if it wasn't, which she said was a rule invented by a person with no joy. I knew she needed at least 20 minutes before she could be a functional human being in the morning. That she cried at commercials about dogs but not at sad movies. That she kept her real feelings about most things locked behind a quick joke, until she trusted you enough to say the actual thing. I thought I knew most of the actual things. The drive to her sister's went quiet after that. Ren didn't notice. She was texting Cecily back one-handed, commenting on the traffic, asking if I thought her sister's new apartment in Midtown was too small for a dinner party or if she was being judgmental. You're being a little judgmental, I said. I'm being realistic. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. And I resent the implication. I kept my eyes on the road. I did not look at her phone again. The dinner was fine. Cecily's apartment was, as Ren had predicted, not ideal for 8 people. But Cecily had pushed every piece of furniture she owned against the walls and set up folding chairs, and it worked the way improvised things sometimes do. Her boyfriend had made a lasagna. There was a lot of wine. I sat across from Ren and watched her talk to everyone in the room, like she'd known them longer than she had. Which was one of those things she did that I had stopped being surprised by but still noticed. At some point Cecily sat down next to me with her wine glass and nodded toward her sister. She seems good, she said. Yeah, you seem like you're thinking about something. I'm just listening. Cecily looked at me with the exact expression Ren used when she thought I wasn't being completely honest, which made sense because they had the same face when they did it. Okay, she said, and didn't push. On the drive back, Ren fell asleep before we got on the highway. She did that sometimes, especially after social events, like her battery just ran out all at once. She had her head tilted against the window and her arms crossed and she looked younger when she slept, or maybe just less defended. I drove the whole way back without the radio on. I didn't say anything that night. I dropped her off, waited until she got inside and drove home. I sat in my parking garage for a few minutes with the engine off before I went up. My apartment felt quiet in the specific way it felt quiet after spending time with Ren. Not empty, just different. Like the volume had been turned down on something I hadn't noticed was playing. I looked at my phone. Her contact was still just Ren. It had always just been Ren. I didn't change it. 3 days later she showed up at my door on a Tuesday evening with takeout containers, and a very specific look on her face. That meant she had a problem she hadn't figured out yet. "Ty okay?" she said, already walking past me into the kitchen. "You're already inside, so that's a yes." She set the bags on the counter and started opening containers. She had gotten the green curry because she knew it was what I ordered, and the pad see ew for herself, and spring rolls for the table, and sticky rice even though I always said I didn't need it, and always ate half of it. We ate at the kitchen island the way we usually did when it was just us, leaning over the containers, no real plates. Her stealing from mine when she ran out of her own. She was talking about a project at work, something that wasn't going right. A client who kept moving the deadline. I was listening. I was also trying not to look at her phone, which was sitting on the counter near the edge. She picked it up at some point to show me an email chain, and I saw the screen for half a second. My contact name was still visible from the notification sidebar. Still the same 3 words. She didn't notice me noticing, and I told him that if he changes the brief again, we're going to have to restart the entire timeline, which he doesn't seem to understand means. She looked up. "What?" "Nothing. You made a face." "I didn't make a face. You did the thing where your jaw does that." "My jaw doesn't do a thing. It has a thing. It does it when you're not saying something." She pointed a chopstick at me. "What are you not saying?" I looked at her for a second. She looked back, and she had that particular expression where the sharpness was present but so was something else, something underneath it that only showed up when she wasn't fully managing the conversation. "The night we drove to your sister's," I said. "I looked at your phone." She was very still for a second. "To check if Cecily texted," I said. "You asked me to, I know, and I saw my contact name." Set the chopstick down slowly. She did not look away from me, which surprised me because I think I expected her to look away. "Okay," she said. Her voice came out flat, which was not her default register. "I wasn't snooping. I know you weren't. I handed it to you, so." I paused. "What does it mean?" She looked at the container in front of her. Then she stood up straighter, like she was bracing for something, and when she looked back at me her expression had done something I couldn't quite name. Less defended. Not open exactly, but less sealed. "How long have you been sitting on that?" she asked. 3 days. Something moved across her face. 3 days and you just ate pad thai with me and didn't say anything. You brought the pad thai. You let me. For 3 days. I was waiting for the right moment. She pressed her lips together. "There isn't going to be a right moment, so, I know." She picked up her water glass and then didn't drink from it, just held it. "It's a long story for a Tuesday. It's only 8 o'clock. The story is not interesting, Ren." She set the glass down. "It started as a joke," she said, which sounds exactly like the wrong thing to say, but it did. "I changed it maybe 8 months ago. There was this thing that happened at your brother's, Danny's birthday thing?" "Yeah." She crossed her arms, but loosely, not defensive, more like she needed something to hold on to. "You don't remember this because you were busy the whole night and you had no idea I was watching, but there was this moment. Danny's oldest was having a meltdown by the fence, the little one. And you just went over there. Didn't make a thing of it. Sat down on the grass in your good jeans and talked to him for like 10 minutes until he calmed down. And then you came back to the table and poured yourself a beer and you just..." She stopped. "You just went right back to the conversation like nothing happened." I tried to remember. I remembered Danny's birthday. I remembered the backyard, the kid crying by the fence. I hadn't thought about it since. "And I was watching that," she said. "And I got this." She made a small, helpless gesture with one hand. "I don't know. I got this feeling. And I went home that night and I was changing your contact for some other reason, some normal reason, and I typed it in without really thinking, and then I looked at it and I thought, well, that's honest." "Derated the maybe," I said. She closed her eyes briefly. "Yeah, what does that mean exactly?" "It means..." She exhaled. "You know that feeling when you almost say a thing out loud, and then you decide not to because you're not sure what happens if you do?" Yes, I had saved you as something before that. Something stupid. A private joke with myself. "What was it?" She shook her head. "That part stays with me. Ren, it had the word maybe in it," she said quickly, like she was pulling off a bandage. "And 8 months ago I deleted it, not the name, just the word. And I kept it because I didn't know how to go back from it and I also didn't want to." The kitchen was quiet. Somewhere outside a car passed, headlights sweeping across the window above the sink. The takeout containers sat between us, one of them slightly open, letting out steam. 8 months, I said. "I'm aware. Every time I texted you. I know. The thing I sent you from the parking lot at work when my meeting got canceled. Yes, the picture of the dog outside the grocery store. Okay, you send a lot of pictures of dogs, Ren. She looked at me with an expression I had seen exactly once before. At the end of a conversation we'd had maybe 2 years in, when she'd told me something real about her family and then gone very quiet, like she was waiting to see what I'd do with it. That look, that one. I changed it because it felt true, she said. And I'm telling you that because apparently I can't manage to have normal secrets like a normal person, and also because you have a jaw thing, and I knew you'd eventually ask. I do not have a jaw thing. You absolutely have a jaw thing. She was not smiling, but she was almost smiling. So, now you know. I looked at her for a long moment. She held it. There was something I should have said years ago that I had been saying differently. I'd said it by showing up, by knowing her coffee order, by walking an extra 3 blocks to the parking garage when it was late, by sitting next to her at her father's retirement dinner when she told me she was nervous about it, and then never mentioning afterward how tightly she'd held my arm the whole night. I had said it in every language except the one that counted. The contact name, I said. The original one. The one with maybe in it. She was very still. What was it? For a second she just looked at me. Then, why does that matter? I want to know what you were thinking before you decided to be sure. Her breath came out slow. She looked at the counter. Then she looked back up. It said the one maybe, she said. With a comma. Like I couldn't even commit to punctuating it correctly. I didn't say anything. I stood up from the stool and walked around the island, and she turned slightly to keep facing me, but she didn't move back. She was watching me the way she watched things when she didn't know what was coming, careful and very present. I reached past her and picked up her phone from the counter. What are you doing? She said. I didn't answer. I found my contact. I looked at it for a second, deleted the maybe, and then I handed the phone to her, screen up. Change it, I said. She looked down at the screen, then up at me. To what? Something without maybe in it. The look on her face was not something I could have described to anyone. It moved through about 4 things at once. Disbelief and then understanding, and then something quieter. Something that looked like relief, which was the part that hit me hardest. You're serious, she said. Yeah, right now? In the middle of takeout? We can finish the takeout, that's so. She laughed, sudden and real. The kind she made when something caught her off guard. That's so practical. I'm a practical person, you really are. She was still laughing a little, but her eyes were bright in a way that made my chest do something inconvenient. Okay. She looked back down at the phone. She typed something. She set it back on the counter, face down this time, and crossed her arms again. What did you change it to? I asked. I'm not telling you. Ren, you can look later. She lifted her chin slightly. Right now I want to know if you actually meant that, or if you just did the most efficient possible version of a romantic gesture, because you're you. Both can be true. That is a very you answer. You know me pretty well. She looked at me with that expression again, the careful one, the one that only showed up when the armor was mostly off. I do, she said. That's the thing, I really do. I took 1 step closer, slow, giving her every opportunity to deflect into a joke or tell me I was being weird or point out that the curry was getting cold. She did none of those things. She just stayed where she was. When I kissed her, it wasn't dramatic. It wasn't the kind of thing that happens in movies where someone knocks something off a counter. It was just certain. That was the only word I had for it later. Like the thing had already been decided somewhere further back, and this was just the moment we both acknowledged the paperwork. Her hand came up and held the front of my shirt, not pulling, just there like an anchor. I pulled back after a second and looked at her. She opened her eyes slowly. Okay, she said. Yeah. I want it on record that you interrupted dinner. I'll take the blame. You're going to have to reheat the curry now. Worth it. She shook her head, but her face was doing something I hadn't seen before. Not the sharp version of her or the cautious version. Something that looked like the version of herself she kept past all those layers. Unhidden. Surprised she was unhiding it and not quite able to stop. I went and reheated the curry. She stood at the counter and watched me like she was still calibrating something, and every few seconds one of us would look at the other for a beat too long and then look away. Can I see the phone? I asked. No. Later. She picked up her water glass. Give me 5 minutes to be dramatic about it. We ate the rest of dinner at the island the same way we always did. Leaning over the containers, spring rolls between us, her stealing from mine. It was the same as it always was, except that it was completely different. And we both knew it. And neither of us needed to make a speech about it. About an hour later, she was on my couch with her legs tucked under her, trying to decide if we should watch something or just sit there. And I picked up her phone from the armrest where she'd left it. She watched me pick it up. She didn't say anything. I looked at the screen, at my contact name. She had changed it to the one. No comma, no maybe. I set the phone back down. She was already looking at me when I looked up. The light in the room was low and she had one arm along the back of the couch, and she looked entirely like herself, which is the best way I know how to say it. Still dramatic enough? I asked. Shut up, she said, and moved closer, and the night outside went on being a Tuesday, which seemed like the exact right way for something like this to finally start.